we take from platform 26. I'm sure, but I mean, and normally for the time, normally our schedule class for start from 5:30 and finish at 8:30, right?
Yes.
Yep. What I want to ask whether you all can go to class at 5:30 or not. Because me,
Oh, that's not possible since some of us are working.
yeah, that's why I would like to know what time can I start because my workplace is nearby. So for me, it doesn't matter, but for you, I don't want to go to the empty class. I mean, yeah.
6 o'clock, teacher.
Yeah. Yes.
I think
Hello.
we could start class at 6 o'clock. Is it okay?
5:30 again. I cannot say maybe because of my phone here
I
again.
mean, we can start class at 6 o'clock because
I
me,
okay.
I think
6 o'clock.
yeah.
As online class.
Oh, it's called class, teacher. Is it
Yep.
okay?
Hello. David ប្រហែលជាកុំព្យូទ័រ lecturer គ្រប់នេះសុំម្ដងទៀត Hello.
ខ្ញុំចង់ថា is it possible ដែលចាប់ផ្ដើមរៀនវិញគ្រូព្រោះ
First.
Yep.
Okay, but 6 is it too late for you guys? I mean, for me, I'm okay, but you know. អញ្ចឹងយើង start ម៉ោង 6 ដូចដើមរៀន online មួយក៏មិនដែរអ្វីទី lecturer ចង់អានតែប៉ុណ្្នឹងទេព្រោះ lecturer ដឹងថាកន្លែង lecturer នៅចូល start up នេះទេវាចិត្តទេដើរតាមផ្លែទេប៉ុន្តែចង់និយាយថាលេខអត់ចង់ទៅដល់ហើយគេថ្នាក់ទៅទេអញ្ចឹងណាជាទូទៅ lecturer សុំសួរថាថ្នាក់មុនដល់ពេលមុន covid ហ្នឹងlecturer ផ្សេងគាត់ start ខ្លះម៉ោងប៉ុន្មាន David
like it's depend. Like some lecturers they will start class at 5:50 and some lecturers will start class around like 5:45 or 6 o'clock. It's depend.
Yep. Okay.
Yes.
So maybe like 5:45. Let's say that, right? And then they end at 8:30 exactly, or more than that.
Since it is at school, it's most likely to end at 8:30.
Okay.
Because yeah.
Because. Right.
Because កន្លែងផ្ញើម៉ូតូអីគេក៏ហូរមកនឹងគេបិទលេខ
ចឹងព្រោះlecturer សួរអ្នកនេះគេថាតាខ្លះចាប់ត្រឹមយូរបំផុត8:20 នាទីហ៎
Yeah, around 8:20
right ដូចចឹងដោយសារកុំឲ្យថាពេលយើងចេញមុនជើងត្រួយអីចឹងវាពិបាកព្រោះចេញ lecturer ចេញពី IFL ប្រហែល10ឆ្នាំអញ្ចឹងនេះអូខេអញ្ចឹងអត់អីចាំនេះយើងអញ្ចឹងយើង start class ម៉ោង 6 ចាំ at the end of second session I will tell you, so you all agree that we start class at 6, right? And end at like 8:20 or 8:30, the lab test. Because it's gonna be too late for you guys. For me, I'm fine, but I just would like to see. Okay. IE410 start at 6. Did you get it all class? We will study together or divide by 2 because in first lecturer said that divided by 2, but then they change their mind to, I mean, the whole class again. I'm not sure from your side, Sam, that we study that 38 students in the same class, right?
At first, yes, it was divided, and then later on, it's now combined as the whole class.
Okay. My concern is he got it. That's fine. It's okay. Okay. Let's start. Group number 5. You here? 4 and 5. You here?
Group 4 is here. Like.
Okay. Can you please present because we have second session. We have the guest lecture. The reason that I asked them to do all the guest lecture this week because after my year we will be physical class, so it will be much troublesome for them to wait until second session to present at school. So okay, group number 4. Can you share the slide, please? Thank you.
We can start now, right, teacher?
Yeah, please start.
Okay, so good evening, everyone. We're from Group 4, and today we're going to be presenting Chapter 5, Assessing the Scope for Value Creation and Capture in Developing Countries. Next slide, please. So this is the table of content, and without further ado, let's go to the first point, which is the importance of building domestic productive capacity. So it's important to distinguish between the first and second order gains when thinking about digital economy and economic progress. The first order benefit refers to the direct and obvious advantages of digital technology access and which is used by individuals, businesses, governments. The increased competitiveness, productivity, wealth, and well-being can all be derived from it. However, as standardized and general purpose technologies become more widely available and used, they become less of a differentiating feature for increasing competitiveness. This is because when more actors adopt a technology, latecomers may be forced to adopt it in order to stay competitive. However, this does not guarantee that they will gain an advantage over their competitors. Whereas the development, administration, and dissemination of digital technology and services make up the second order benefits. Long-term growth, employment, and wealth creation and long-term positive effects on the productivity and competitiveness are all enhanced as a result. The commercialization of large-scale digital data is anticipated to provide the most value in this scenario, while the first-order benefits may give lower returns as a technology adoption increases. Second-order benefits may yield higher returns. So the domestic economic development can be boosted via digital entrepreneurship and innovation. Local actors can do this by developing new digital technologies or modifying existing ones, seeking technology-based market opportunities, or digitalizing current economic activity. Entrepreneurs in poor countries may be able to reach new markets thanks to digital economy, such like e-commerce. New business models and solution to long-standing development difficulties may arise as a result of the application of new technologies. Local content can be linked, such like to domestic software manufacturing in poor countries. Software as a general purpose technology has numerous uses across an economy. It can assist businesses in better managing their resources, gaining access to essential information, lowering operating costs, and shortening time to market. With the increase of use of ICTs in government, healthcare, education, and other sectors, there's a higher demand for capabilities to design customized software applications. So in addition to that, to enhance productivity and operational efficiency, countries with well-developed software industries are better positioned to adopt personalized solutions and generate learning opportunities. It is most important for developing countries to develop their productive capabilities for digital economy, as this concerns not only creating digital platforms, but also facilitating digital entrepreneurship and digitalization of existing firms. As for the second point, which is the use of global digital platforms in developing countries, firms in developing nations can benefit from usage of global digital platforms in a variety of ways. Improved efficiency and increased access to domestic and international markets could arise from more opportunities to link with different areas of a country or with other countries. Some global platforms may have greater potential for generating economic value than others. The line between platforms, on the other hand, is getting increasingly blurred, whereas Facebook, for example, is utilized in many developing countries to sell local services or goods to potential customers. New digital technologies such as e-commerce are allowed are allowing businesses of all sizes to participate in domestic and international trade, primarily through boosting market access for customers, supply chains and competitors, as well as cutting trade costs. And furthermore, digital platforms enable those supplying assets or services to interact more readily with consumers by lowering transactions and search costs as well as friction, which results in new types of trade and enables more traditional trade to move online and leverage the different uses of digital platforms to better match between buyers and sellers. So the greater efficiency, deeper specialization, and division of labor gains from variety and predictability for all players are, as well as cheaper costs and prices of inputs and final products, are all potential benefits for developing countries, enterprises, and customers. However, for developing countries to benefit from e-commerce, a number of areas needs to be addressed, which are fostering the provision of affordable ICT infrastructure and services, offering payment solutions, improving trade logistics and trade facilitation, creating appropriate legal and regulatory frameworks, promoting e-commerce skills development, and facilitating access to financing. Global e-commerce platforms should be leveraged in developing countries not only for the buying and importing of foreign products, but also for the support of domestic production and exports. And so far, there have been more effective in facilitating imports of foreign products than enabling domestic products to be exported. So as a result, many developing countries are growing concerned of the increasingly reliance on global e-commerce platforms will result in increased consumer spending and imports. So to effectively profit of global platforms, entrepreneurs and businesses must have easy access to them, as both buyers and sellers are the users of the platforms and are sometimes however, they're sometimes restricted for businesses in poor nations, and access to many platforms is still uneven. If we were to look at it, the lack of cross-border payments option is prevalent factor in poor countries. And one of the main advertising systems, such like Google AdSense, does not advertise in languages other than Arabic, English, French, and Portuguese, which is severely limiting and the possibilities for new services to be monetized. So there's a distinction between transaction and innovation platforms is important. Transaction platforms provide an environment where consumers can directly engage, such like Facebook, to engage with many end users as possible, mining and analyzing their data to monetize value, whereas innovation platforms provide settings in which code and content providers can develop apps and software such as Android or iOS. The integrated platform, which is both of it, such like Google and Apple, are companies that combine both, as the previously said, the innovation and transaction platforms. So it's also important to distinguish between firms and products. Because of digital innovation is typically generative, foundational digital building blocks continue to be used without requiring any additional action or costs on the part of their creators. A digital product can scale with the overall digitalization process when a digital product becomes embedded in global digital infrastructure. This scaling method applies to innovation platforms that create ecosystem for both combinatorial digital innovation, such like iOS, Android, Microsoft, etc. Therefore, it is important for entrepreneurs and innovators to have the necessary access and skills to leverage the critical digital building blocks. That's the end of point A and B. So now we'll be moving to the next point. Thank you.
Let us move to leveraging local and regional digital platforms. Here we will focus on the scope for developing countries to leverage the opportunity for establishing local and regional digital platforms, which offers some potential advantages to the domestic real economy, including convenient for local customers and business through shorter shipping times, flexible and payment option. On the other hand, countries often face a number of constraints due to weaknesses in the local economic environment. And last but not least, we will focus on why digital platforms originating in developing countries have remained fewer and smaller than their counterparts in the more advanced economies. So first, we will focus on features of local and regional digital platforms. A consistent finding concerning digital platform originating in developing countries is that most of them are transaction platform rather than innovation or integrate platform. The rising of number platform in Asia, excluding China, fall wholly in the transaction platform category, and they have relatively low level of market capitalization. And because of weaknesses in the local ecosystem, customers and employees, low technological capacity, or issue with physical logistics, digital platform in developing countries must employ a variety of business model innovation to be viable. And in many cases, the value proposition for end user on digital platforms in emerging countries is identical to that of global digital platforms. However, the way they put together the value proposition is vastly different. And as a result, many digital platforms in developing nations, particularly in Asia, in Africa, must internalize a larger portion of overall value generation and can no longer afford to be as physical asset light as their global counterparts. Let's move to next slide, please. And as we know that a lack of digital innovation platform in many developing nations has a serious consequence for development. Drawbacks from the lack of innovation platform, which is one probable effect, is that the dominance of global innovation platform would strengthen technological innovation path in developing nations that aren't always well linked with local market demands. And additionally, digital business in developing countries may have a competitive disadvantages, limit their potential to scale, and furthermore, due to lack of acceptable foundational digital building blocks for combinatorial innovation, locally appropriate digital technology may continue to be difficult to develop. And countries that are lagging behind in the digital economy may not only find it difficult to catch up with more advanced economies, but they may also lose their ability to develop indigenous innovation ecosystem. If the critical mass of resources, including users, financial capital, and data, and developer capacity is increasingly focused on technological design, primarily for the needs of other geographical areas. Hence, the opportunity for local digital innovation platforms to emerge in developing countries may also become slimmer over time as the market and innovative powers of global platforms are reinforced. Let's move to the another one, or the last part of point C, part C, which is mid-grow potential of local and regional digital platforms. Digital platforms in developing countries are on the rise in terms of number, size, and scope, and some of them even reaching billion-dollar valuation, especially in Asia, mostly Chinese platforms, but also in Latin America and Africa. Given the scaling economies and lock-in effect of digital platforms, developing country startups often find it hard to compete effectively for market or product categories that are offered through the physical asset-light expansion strategy for global competitor. And consequently, the main growth option left to them are either to enter a new product category or to look for niche market or good markets that globally operating platforms are unable or unwilling to serve differentiately. Due to self-sustaining growth and lock-in effects in digital product categories such as digital payment, online search, and operating system, developing country platform is expected to become harder over time as platform market become oligopolies or monopolies, leading to a widening of the digital gap. This may be particularly true for innovative platforms where the potential for combinatorial innovation and generatively scaling depends on standardization and the mobilization of developer contribution across the wider geographical expanse possible. In addition, concern from a long-term development perspective is the risk that once successful digital platforms in many developing countries acquire a certain scale, they will become attractive acquisition target to bigger players. And for the other part or the other point, I would like to give a chance to my next member, and he or she will explain you on this. Thank you.
Before I move on to the next slide, I would like to inform if you guys cannot see the slide or hear me clearly, please let me know since my internet is kind of lag. So let's move on to the next slide, which is part D, digital entrepreneurship. One is entrepreneurs ecosystem. Innovations and entrepreneurship tends to depend on the quality of the surrounding ecosystem rather than taking place alone in isolations. And entrepreneurship is a social and actor-driven process involving organization and a group of individuals. It offers the potential for value captures and economic development for the enterprise. This explains why some cities and regions bring more productive enterprise than others. Also, more advanced ecosystem able actors to exchange, pass on, and enrich resources more effectively in the continuous, interactive, and geographically confined process. Even their study of digital entrepreneurship, the majority of digital enterprise remain small and local. There are different conditions in studying a technological venture between the least developed country and the developing countries such as San Francisco or London. As in the developing country, their investment capital is kind of rare and the infrastructure is weaker and the access to skilled knowledge worker is limited. Moreover, the geographical content of digital entrepreneurship physical environments tend to influence their ability to grow and contribute to the local economic development. The importance for digital specific, including such as entrepreneurial knowledge, and venture capitals that support startup and flexible network of high-skilled professionals tend to be important for digital enterprise, and they are generally immobile and regionally specific. So for the next slide, it's two main ecosystem bottlenecks. These are the following analyses to identify ecosystem bottlenecks as a basic for considering what could be affected policy response. A small and fragmented local market. A common bottleneck for digital enterprise in developing countries is the small size and limited for their scope of their market. Also, it is rare for them to be able to reach international markets. Enterprise typically focus on using digital technology to catch up to a market. As local digital enterprise have effectively been able to reach much more what statistic on smartphone and internet adoption might suggest, along with the end user are having the low willingness as well as the ability when it comes to pace, and they are limited values to the advertiser. Digital produce catering to customer often struggle to become financial sustainable. And two, it's in the core in the equal entrepreneurial knowledge and skill. Digital entrepreneurship is fundamentally skills and knowledge intensive. Policies tend to focus on technological skill taught at the university, while the entrepreneurial knowledge is at least as important, which is often weak. Entrepreneurial knowledge involves knowledge of how to run and scale a digital enterprise. It is mostly a technique knowledge that cannot be easily be imported from the outside, and it is hard to codify or generalize. For local specific entrepreneurial knowledge tend to be acquired through first-hand experience or through one-on-one uh, regular mentorship. Digital enterprise, this digital entrepreneurship is still a rather novel practice, which means that entrepreneurial knowledge is most it's most strategic. That is the only just to that is the only just being developed. Have exist for their first and second startup functions are often the most important resource for newcomers, as they are an absence of experienced entrepreneur who pass on their knowledge limits the prospect of the newcomers enterprise. This might take a very long before entrepreneurial knowledge begin to regulate. C. Uh, Lack of a highly skilled and affordable workforce. Digital enterprise relies on creative skilled staff such as software developer, designs, and data scientists. However, a major problem for the local digital enterprise is to be able to recruit uh, and retrain talents that is locally available. The dynamic working environment in the startup often call for different soft skills such as critical and independent thinking, rather than what local university graduate can offer. With the help from the software engineer, engineers either stay abroad or online freelancing, it can become the most valuable team members in the digital enterprise. If we talk about talents, it is often expensive by local standard, even though their salaries tend to be lower than what this knowledge worker can earn in more advanced country. Four, it's limited access to finance. Another critical element is accessing to financing. It is a developed country, and particularly in the less developed ones, the financial sector is generally underdeveloped. As a startup lacks the access to a commercial banks are unlikely to provide the necessary funds, giving the higher risk. Another type of financial mechanism has such as angel investments. Angel investment is the process by which investors give funds to a startup company earlier than typical investment would. And one more is the venture capital, which is the process by which investor funds and support startup business or small company that has the potential for the long-term growth. Moreover, for the role of the governments, they can help improve the situation by offering programs and instruments for financial innovative activity in the early stage. With deep knowledge of African market, the increasing formulation of the anti-intervector network and the emerge of the vector capitals fund have made a market difference in recent years. In the case of the Latin Africa, which is Africa's access to the funds for digital entrepreneurship is more limited than in another region, particularly in the developed world. So let's move on to another presenter.
Hello. So move on to my part is innovation hub for opportunity and challenge. So move to opportunity. The first one is the role of innovation hub as seamless network infrastructure for entrepreneurial ecosystem that allow entrepreneurs to thrive by giving them access to mentor, investor, staff, government, international corporation, and other innovation hub can be understood as the organization level equivalent of in entrepreneurial ecosystem. In hub, entrepreneurial network and resource are assembled around physically immobile force-core organization. So it is one example of a broader set of entrepreneurship support organizations that are more network, bottom-up, and community-oriented than the traditional business that include co-working space, open creative lab, open innovation lab, maker space, and digital fabrication lab. And second, the innovation hub can consider as assembler of local entrepreneur community within entrepreneur ecosystem by convening, interconnecting, and motivating entrepreneur. They can help to transform social structure in a giving ecosystem. Innovation hub can also serve as a focal point with wider social technological or knowledge network. The more effective hub can tend to help both a strong, active, self-determined community of entrepreneurs and a wide network of partners. And for the challenges, all other support mechanisms depend on pre-existing resources available only in a given entrepreneurship ecosystem. It is particularly impossible to evaluate the impact of such initiatives in terms of their value for money. For instance, local mentors are essential contributors to most kinds of intervention, but if they are absent in nascent ecosystem, any support intervention become less effective. And second, isolate intervention will seldom achieve good results given the complex context-specific independency in ecosystem. The presence of some successful digital enterprise can lead to positive feedback loop over time, but while supporting entities such as hub or even policymakers are unlikely to infuse key entrepreneur resource themselves. So innovation hub will not strengthen an ecosystem if other blockade remain unsolved. Next slide. And so the point four is about unevenness and vicious cycle in ecosystem development. So ecosystem of digital entrepreneurship have emerged in some African cities, but the process has been uneven. Every major African city now hosts a small-scale ecosystem, but innovation hub now exists in nearly every African country. But however, progress progress in Africa has been uneven. The diverse enterprise exists in those first four cities, then in the second tier city, and the density of innovation hub and other support initiative is also higher there. For example, for countries such as Egypt, Kenya, Nigeria, and South Africa account for 50% of Africa total digital entrepreneurship activity, and for second-tier country account for 20%, while the remaining 44 countries in Africa account for remaining 20%. And second, the creation of support organization cannot compensate for shortage of entrepreneur knowledge in the early stage of ecosystem development. In nascent ecosystem, intervention often focus on light-touch networking event and short-term training program. While this may ensure inspiration and activity, they cannot replace the hard and slow work of local experiential learning. And the last is vicious cycle apply to investment when investors are often hesitant or absent because investable startups are rare in ecosystem with small local market. So this is the limit the growth and exist possibility for a few promising local startups that do exist. Networking organizations such as Innovation Hub are not always able to experience entrepreneurs to participate in their activity. So that's all from me. So move to another presenter.
Now is point 8. The strategies for digital enterprises in Africa. So most digital enterprises in Africa are operating under challenging conditions. So in order to overcome these challenges, they adopted three strategies which are going to be discussed. First is the old school sustainability. So the first strategy entails expanding client relationship in core specialty market, and this strategy has suited many African digital enterprises for three reasons. First is it does not require major upfront investment before revenue is generated, and it is important for entrepreneurs that lack sufficient saving or access to the risk capital. Second is digital enterprises are able to learn from customers by adapting products and conducting maintenance in response to the problem for them. Third is the international competitor may offer higher quality solution in the same product category, but it might be not aligned with the local requirement or too expensive for them. Next slide, please. So the second strategy is the last mile platforms. So the second strategy are also targets for the local markets. However, it is targeted for the bigger group of consumer or small businesses, and it may include user-based scaling, but it works on accordance with digital infrastructure to promote client engagement. And this strategy also seems to work in African market because it directly addresses two demand-side constraints, which are first the low trust and capacity in the use of digital technology. Second is the infrastructure weaknesses, for example, the low internet connection or the outdated devices. And these firms are all transaction platforms with significant offline complements to their online offering, which is a significant distinction from their worldwide competitors such as the Uber or Amazon. Thus, the African platform likely to engage in offline interaction with end user, which called as the last mile platform. Next slide, please. So the third strategy is using exclusive local assets to derive value for clients in developed countries. So this strategy is use digital technology to stem creating capability to reach clients in developed country while employing a physical presence in Africa. And it can be seen in the case of Andela and Gabriel. So both companies take advantage of the incessant demand for software developer in developed country and the low cost of labor in Africa. However, they also setting up local African operations that are more elaborate than call center to ultimately nurture African developer talent as a unique asset. So overall, the consumer or big group of small business users utilize last mile platform to undertake the demand-driven localization, and the local asset approach meet the globalized worldwide demand while also generating value through a localized code and content generation process. And the localization may restrict the development of African digital firms compared to the global platform, but given their regional origins, this strategy may be the greatest option to create and also capture value through digital technology in Africa. And that's it for my part. Let's move to the another presentation.
So, good evening, guys. And if you hear the background sound, please don't mind me because it's my grandma's funeral day. So, let's get started. Um, I will present about digitalization of enterprise in developing countries. So, the reaping and extent benefit from digitalization depends on pre-existing economy, social structure, and critical mass effects of the country itself. Um, for instance, the ITC sector, uh, we need to focus on the ICT core sector, not the other industry that require ICT. In um, but in developing countries, the ICT industry tend to refer their um, ability into another industry rather than the core ICT sector itself. And then the nature and extent platformization in developing country is related slow progress up toward a more sophisticated use of digitalization may result from the lack of skill, motivation, resources, and appropriate system as a developing countries. The resources, the training, the education are still limited due to their SMSE infrastructure and structure itself. And MSME here it refers to micro Ministry um, wait of small, medium, and micro e-commerce. And so yes, we need to strengthen the capacity of MSME structure as well as the strategy to facilitate the digitalization in developing countries. And then their participation in online platform may be more useful for smaller firm in a smaller uh, in a developing countries, and it may be useful uh, uh, within the competition in specific and well-defined market segments, um, such as wait, um, such as tradings and yes, and so on. And so in our in overall digitalization platformatization, we need the MSME to strengthen the capacity of ICT, which is information and communication technology to 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 be developed as a to like to be developed as the economy being developed. So and that is where we can use the opportunity of digitalization within the developing country to be a more competitive, greater than when we don't have the lacks of ICT things. And move on to next slide, please. So in conclusion, they are in the developing countries, there are opportunity for enterprises and to benefit from digitalization. However, there's also opportunity from digitalization that there's also many opportunity from digitalization are constrained in many ways. Some are due to deficiencies in local infrastructures and entrepreneurial ecosystem, while others are about the way in which the digital is unfolding. Yet, the digital business model have to be adapted from a more advanced economy, which taken into local circumstances and limitation. And that is all for our. Thank you guys for listening.
Okay, thank you, Mike, for your elaborative presentation. Now I would like to give the floor to group number 5. Group number 5, you here?
Yes, sure.
Yes, please, can you just share this, please share the slide, and then do the presentation.
Good afternoon, teachers and everyone. We are from Group 5 and we respond for presenting about Chapter 5, assessing the scope for value creation and capture in developing country. And our group has 5 members, Vary, Swat, me, Vijay, Somtai, and Liang An. Next slide, please. Here is our content of presentations. So without further ado, let's move to the first point of the presentation, which is the importance of building domestic productive capacity. Next slide, please. So in this point, to examine the relations between the digital economic and economic development, we need to know the difference between the first and second order benefit. So the first order benefit relate to the direct and visible advantage of access and use of the digital technology by users, enterprise, and government, such like we can create the value in terms of increased competitiveness, productivity, wealth, and well-being. However, as access and use of the standard and general purpose technology become more widespread and they become less of the distinguished factor for boosting competitiveness. So, and for the second order benefit stem from the development, management, and distribution of the digital technology and service, and this create a better prosperity for long-term growth, job and wealth creation, and lasting positive growth effects on the productivity and competitiveness. And so in the digital economics, most entrepreneurs are the users of the digital products, and thus it benefit from the first order effect in order to the harness the full potential of the digital economic. For the value creation, developing country need to look for the way of driving both first and second order benefits. And so the digital entrepreneurship and innovation can boost domestic economic development, and this can take the form of the local actor creating the new digital technology or adapting existing ones or persuading the technology that based on the market opportunity or from the digitalizations of existing economic activity. So that's all for this point, and let's move to the next point, which is the use of the global digital platform in developing countries. So there are in this section mentioned that there are various ways in which firms in developing country can benefit from the use of the global digital platform, which provide a greater opportunity to connect with different parts of the country and also with other countries that could result in improved efficiencies and increased access to domestic and also the international market. And some global digital platform may provide more potential for economic value creations than the others, because in many developing countries, Facebook is often used as a mean to market domestic service to potential customer, and the new digital solution, including for e-commercial, create opportunity for companies of all sides to engage in domestic and international trade, and also it also increased the market access for the customer and also supply chains and competitor, and also by the lowering trade costs. And this can has a possible impacts on SME in country and at all levels of developments, but in different way, because the potential benefit for developing country, company, and consumer range from the greater efficiency to the deeper specialization and divisions of the labor gain from the variety and for all players, as well as the lower cost and price of the input and final products. So, and in order to avoid to get the benefit from the e-commercial, developing country need to address a number of areas, including fostering the provisions of the affordable ICT infrastructures and services, offering payment solution, improving trade, logistic and trade facilitation, creating appropriate legal and regulatory framework, promoting e-commercial skill development, and facilitated access to the financings. And all this will contribute to improve the readiness of the developing country to trade online. And for currently variations in e-commercial readiness between within the country enhance the rest of the benefit from e-commercial being unequally distribute. So next slide, please. So for the developing purpose, global knowledge and back. So for the developing purpose, global commercial platform should be leveraged in developing country, not only for buying and importing for foreign product, but also for supporting the domestic product and also the exporting. So nowadays the global e-commercial platform in developing country has been more effective in facilitating in importing of the foreign product than in enables a domestic product to be exported. So consequently, many developing countries are increasingly concerned about the greater reliance on the global e-commercial platform that will result in higher consumer spending and import. And there are also common limitation that access to the e-commercial platform, which is the lack of the cross border payment solution. So while the global e-commercial platform integrate with the payment solution in many developing countries, companies are unable to use them if they lack of the foreign bank accounts also subsidiary. So similarly, they has been resolved with regarding to the selling mobile applications uh, in some regions such as for moreover, the advertising platforms such as the Google AdSense not do not accept the advertisements in some languages such as the Africa language and compared to other language such as English, French, Portuguese, which limit the potential to money to generate a new service. So that's all for my part. Let's move to the next point, which present by my other teammate.
So thank you, Zengha, for presentations. Now I would like to move on to the leveraging local and regional digital platform. So as we can see that a consistent finding concerning digital platform. So a consistent finding concerning digital platform originating in developing countries such as China and country in Africa is that most of them are transaction platform rather than innovation or integrated platform. So using this research to compile data covering 42 platform companies that have raised around 1 million or more in investments in Africa, actually found that all were transaction platform. So the example of transaction platform in Africa, including company called OLX, Takes a Lot, and Easy Taxi. Next slide, please. So now we move on to the specific market and infrastructures of African digital entrepreneur. So actually, African digital platform entrepreneur face specific market and infrastructure challenge that requires critical adaptations compared to business model used by global platform. The following struggles in African digital platform, including in Africa, we require to have a person to function as the customer interface with the digital platform. This can come in form of sales or extension agent using tablets to facilitate data entry and allowing cash payment on delivery, building up local call center capacity for quick callbacks and customer service. The second point is establishing physical supply chain and logistics service. such as distribution center, payment point, warehouses, drivers, and delivery vehicles. The third point is investing in the development of human capital because Africa lacks high skilled labor, for instance, such as project managers and software engineers. And last but not least is the investing in the development of entrepreneur and managerial knowledge, such as understanding the Africa-specific launch and competitive strategy, as well as the pricing itself. So if we take Africa digital entrepreneur as a reflection to overall concept of digital platform in developing country, we can see that there are a lot of weakness in the local ecosystems, such as poor internet bandwidth, insufficient payment system, as well as low technological capacity of customers and employees. And therefore, a range of business model needs to be implemented and has to be viable occasionally. So moving on to next slides. If we look back to Latin America and compare to digital entrepreneur in Africa, we can see that there are similar constraints, but we can see a better situations in Latin America itself. This can be due to better internet connection and the connectivity situation in Latin American country. So we can see that there is a lot of successful startup and unicorn in Latin America. For instance, we have company like Mercado Libre, which operate in many Latin American countries, and as well as the Colombian on-demand delivery startup called Rappi, which has also exceeded 1 billion valuation to qualify as a unicorn. So moreover, it was found that there are more than 100 what we call techno Latinas, which worth over $25 million, and also 9 unicorns that have a valuation over 1 billion US dollars. So most of these companies were concentrated in countries such as Brazil, Argentina, Mexico. And by April 2019, Latin America had a total of 19 ones, which has a market valuation of over $1 billion. Next slide, please. So the last slides of my part is we are going to talk about the previous two. So the digital platform landscape in Asia is pretty unique as it is dominated by two main countries, which is China and India. And apart from China, there are also some digital platform located in Southeast Asia. And interestingly, in terms of competitiveness, we can see that regional platforms are competing with global company. And an example is that for e-commerce, we have a Flipkart versus Amazon. And for travel and accommodations, we have a platform called Jumi Travel, which is competing indirectly with Airbnb and Hotels.com, and as well as multimedia entertainment such as iRock TV, competing with global multimedia entertainment such as YouTube and Netflix. So, however, the digital ecosystem in these developing countries and in Asia region are still not on par with the conditions that global platforms have at the moment. So therefore, we can consider that the scope for developing country competitor to achieve exponential growth compared to those global platforms is still greatly constrained. So this is the end of my part, and I would like to invite Sunday to continue the presentation.
So in this part, we look at the drawback of the lack of innovation platform. The lack of digital innovation platform in many developing countries may have a significant development implications. There are very possible outcomes. The first one is that the dominance of the global innovation platform will further strengthen the technological innovation pathway, which may poorly align with the local market in it for the developing country. The second one is that digital enterprise may also find themselves faced with comparative disadvantages due to the evolving digital economy that hinder their ability to scale. This requires the redesign of the innovation process so that digital enterprise could catch up with the involving digital economy and also the innovation platforms. The third problem is that it also poses the risk of many developing countries falling behind the digital economy. This is because of the advancement of the technology such as artificial intelligence, AI, self-driving cars, and many more advancement technology. These platforms are designed and create and are designed in the creation of the smart manufacturing product, and hence this might pose the risk for the developing country to falling behind the digital economy. And the last problem is that it also create a less opportunity for local digital innovation platform to emerge in the developing country. And hence, developing country might find it hard to catch up with the innovation platform and also lost the ability to develop the innovation ecosystems. Next slide, please. For example, we look at the M-Pesa app. It is an African mobile money and smartphone app. This app is widely used in Africa. However, despite the success of the app, digital entrepreneurs express their concern about the low degree of openness and functionality of the app, which might hinder the digital innovations to be on this platform. Next slide, please. And this part, we look at the limited growth of local and regional digital platforms. Despite the rise of the digital platform in Asia, Latin America, and Africa, but still there are many factors that hamper or limit the growth of local and regional digital platform. The first one is that developing countries find it hard to compete for a product that are offered through the physical asset life expansion strategy of a global competitor. And as a result, developing country might enter a new product category, or they might look for a new market that globally digital platforms are unable to perform. The second problem is that digital product categories such as digital payment, online search, or head-on competition become harder as the platform market become more monopolized, which as a result it also widen the digital gap further. And last but not least is that many successful digital platforms has been targeted by a global player. For example, Lazada has been acquired by Alibaba, while South, which is one of the biggest e-commerce platform, has been acquired by Amazon.com. So this is the end of my part, and I would like to hand the floor to the next presenter.
So, good evening, lecturer. So, my part is about the digital entrepreneurship. In the digital entrepreneurship here, I cover the two main points. The first one is the entrepreneurial ecosystem. So, what is the entrepreneurial ecosystem? It is a system of interdependent actors directly or indirectly supporting the creation and the growth of new venture. So it means that when you're doing entrepreneurship, that means you cannot taking place in the isolation. It is a social and actor-driven process involving organization and group of individuals, and its potential value capture and also economic development at or near the location of the enterprise. This can explain that why some city or region generate more productive enterprise than other. In order to know that, we have to look at the place-bound entrepreneurial resource. So, what is the place-bound entrepreneurial resource? It is the resource specific to the entrepreneurship process. It means that it is a place that enable actor to exchange or to pass on or to enrich resource more effectively. And if we take a look at the digital entrepreneurship in the developing country, we could see that there are still lacking and some conditions, such as like the investment capital is scarcer, and also the infrastructure is weaker, and access to skilled knowledge worker is also limited. So in the next point is the following point will identify ecosystem bottleneck as a basic for considering what could be an effective policy response. So next slide, please. So in here, where we identify the four bottlenecks of the entrepreneurship here, like the first one is the small and fragment local market. So a common bottleneck for the digital enterprise in the developing country is the small size and scope of their market. It means that those enterprise tend to focus and also use the digital technology to target only on their domestic market, and this hard and rarely for them to reach the international market. So only software outsourcing provider could serve the customer in the high income country. And for example, like in Africa, there are only a few enterprise that could reach their customer beyond their city, because those customer they have a minimum infrastructure access or technology readiness to engage with the digital product like on Amazon or on Facebook. And moving on to next slide. So the second bottleneck of the entrepreneurship is the inadequate entrepreneurial knowledge and skill. Digital entrepreneurship is a fundamental skill and knowledge intensive. It means that those to run the entrepreneurship, like it cannot import knowledge or skill from other. Like we have, it is a skill based. Like we have to understand how to run it and the scale of the digital enterprise as well. And basically, what we have seen in the local, we can see that when when they start or do entrepreneurship here, they require the first-hand experience or one-on-one regular mentorship. For the new entrepreneur environment, like some are still scared and also didn't want to take risk in the doing the entrepreneur, like they because they have no entrepreneur experience entrepreneur pass on to the newcomer. Only those can like exposed to risk. They challenge themselves that maybe fail one or two times. It means they can have the experience of doing that. So more on to the next slide. For the third bottleneck here is the lack of highly skilled and affordable workforce. The digital enterprise here is rely on creative skill and skill staff such as like software developer, designer, or data scientist. There is what the less developing country are lack of, like they some university in the less developing country cannot skill cannot fulfill enough to start a startup. Like they tend to focus more on the soft skill, and so and they have to import the other software engineer from the high income country. But you know already that those high engineer in the high income country didn't want to work in the lower country. They will get the lower salary than their home country. And also some local software engineer in less developing country also lack knowledge into the server administration or algorithmic computing as well. Move on to the next slide. So the last bottleneck of the entrepreneurship here is the limited access to finance. Access to finance is also another important critical determinant for the digital entrepreneurship as well. Some local banks are unlikely to provide funds for the digital startup, and which could pose those startups to the high risk. And so they have to find another financing mechanism. The first one is the angel investor. Angel investor here is referred to the individual that invest their own money in the company. And the other one is the venture capital. Venture capital here it refers to the investor of money by like the one that invest the money for other, and they hope to get the return back if the startup is successful. It means like the middleman. And moreover, they government also intervention in the infant startup as well. For example, like offer program and instrument for financing innovative activity in the early stage. So that's all for my part. My teammate will continue the presentation.
Good evening, everyone. So I'm on to my part. My part talk about the innovation hub opportunity and challenges. So as we know that innovation hub can be an organizational level or the place that connect people with network that related to entrepreneurial ecosystem. And so as we know that the organization try to support the innovation hub in order to make the entrepreneurial community more successful. And it consider that it's the hub is the supporting channel to boosting entrepreneurship activity that related to digital activity. So as we know that in Africa, it's really not live up to the expectation. So we have to focus on the challenges that happen in the innovation hub that was established in Africa. So in Africa, some of the hub are become bustling place, brimming with entrepreneurial activity. But somehow the hub itself need to be like for the people need to access to the mentor, investor, or staff, or the government. So sometimes, if the hub could not get the support from those people, the hub could not be operated. And for some reason, sometimes innovation hub can be can have a symbolic boundary, which means that some of the people that participate in the innovation hub tend to have their self-selected people or try to have their boundary in their own clique. That's why it have the imbalance homogeneity. So we need to balance the homogeneity, which called social cohesion, and the heterogeneity, which diversity or competitive results and knowledge. So like it have to be diverse. The knowledge sharing that related to entrepreneurship have to be more widespread. And another challenges, as we know, is about the limited reach. So as we know that sometimes even like the innovation hub get supported by the government in nurturing small community, but it's only a peer mentorship, and it's only achieved in a limited reach, which means only a small community could get reach to this kind of entrepreneurial activity. However, for some reason, if the knowledge of the entrepreneurship could not spread to the other local, they could not generate the value from doing this kind of digital entrepreneurship. And as we know that it's a kind of a pragmatic ecosystem, which means like sometimes even we try to innovate new things, people still not try to support, or especially the mass, they do not really appreciate what people are doing. And it may therefore consider that hub is as an assembler for local entrepreneurial community within an entrepreneurial ecosystem. So like it need to it have to transform social structure in a given system. And then we have to focus on the opportunity and solution to this kind of digital entrepreneurship. So in order to do that, the innovation have to be strong, active, self-determined community of entrepreneur and network of partners. So like they have to have a lot of connection, cooperation, and support by the government and the donor. And thus have to manage a purpose-driven channel for sharing entrepreneurship results. So they have to share it among all people. There is no bias inside the innovation hub, and also try to boost the immediate creator. And against to this background, as we know that, and some of the African entrepreneurship digital entrepreneur, they try to establish their startup again, and we can see that there is some change in the recent year. So in the example listed in the UN report, they say about the German cooperation try to make the IT market in Africa projects by providing more support, and also the innovation fund provided to mentor on African digital enterprise, World Bank, and Google's. And we can see this is one of the opportunity, and there is also that the intervention, the accelerator will seldom the achieve of a good result given the complex of the specific interdependency in ecosystem. So like sometimes we need to isolate the entrepreneurial innovation hub so that they could achieve something very useful to their society. And for the more importantly, the presence of successful digital enterprise can lead to the positive feedback loop over time while supporting entities such as hub or even policymaker. And it actually it's unlikely to infuse with the key entrepreneurial results themselves. And we know that some time not having a supply of intervention could make the digital activity more successful. Sometimes the bottleneck need to be addressed as well. And let's move on to the next part. So this part talk about the unevenness and versus circle in the ecosystem development. So like as we know, the vibrant ecosystem of digital entrepreneurship have emerged in some major African city. So those people in major African city were inspired to open up their digital entrepreneurship or small local market to customize software, app development, and other freelancing services. Unfortunately, we can see that it still only occur in some major country. So regard to this finding, they talk about 4 countries like Egypt, Kenya, Nigeria, and South Africa account for almost 60% of the African digital entrepreneurship activity. And the second tier country such as Ghana, Morocco, Senegal, Tunisia, Uganda, and Tanzania only make up more 20%, which while remaining 44 countries in Africa only account for remaining 20%. So basically, Africa has a fewer capital and other entrepreneurship result, even though those 4 countries that I have mentioned have the highest digital activity inside their country. It's still fewer and limited results to the other region of the world. And it appears to be strong and business circle between the entrepreneurial results that recycle over time. And so, for example, as that constraint on ability of the startup or scale influenced by particularity of local talent, angel investor, and local customer base. So basically, like sometimes when those countries have limited results to this kind of digital entrepreneurship, some of the investor would be hesitant to invest in their digital activity. And subsequently, we can see how it's not really it have been a slow progress inside Africa for helping a digital entrepreneurship to be addressed throughout the global. And a similar versus circle apply to the investment, like that it have a limited growth of the potential of the young talented entrepreneur that could not give out their promising talent to the world due to the limited result, and never organization even sometimes could not help those entrepreneurs to experience their activity outside their comfort zone. So that's it for my part, and I would like to invite the next presenter to present this.
Okay. Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much. So moving on to the next point, we'll talk about the strategy for digital enterprise in Africa. So basically, there are 3 strategy that the digital enterprise in Africa they used to to make sure that they can become more sustainable in the digital era. So first of all, the first strategy we call the old school sustainability. So this strategy involve the customer relationship scaling adapted to the local niche market. A digital enterprise can benefit from some economy of scale in code or content creation. So, but they actually establish and maintain one-on-one customer relationship through direct or regular interaction. So, due to the high marginal cost for new customer, the strategy is the most common in business-to-business sector, such as customized software development, supply chain management, and so on and so forth. So there are three reasons that this strategy has should for many African digital enterprise. So first of all, it does not require major upfront investment before revenue is generated. So this is very important for entrepreneurs that lack sufficient saving or access to the risk capital. Second, digital enterprise are able to learn from customer continuously adapting, produce products and conducting maintenance in response to the direct request for the improvement. And last but not least, the international competitor may offer a higher quality solution in the same products category. So these are the three reasons that this strategy is suitable for the digital enterprise in Africa. So moving on to the second strategy, we call it as a last mile platform. So this strategy target a local market, but also oriented toward the large group of the end consumers as well, end users as well, such as the consumer or small business. This strategy, so basically, is a lesson learned from the M-Pesa, a successful use of an elaborate agent system. So basically, normally the enterprise are using the agent and regular workshop and training session to attract and also to interact with their customer. So this strategy seems to work very well in African market because it directly addresses two demand side constraints. First of all, is the low trust and capacity in the use of digital technology, and second of all, it's about the infrastructure weakness, mainly refer to the internet bandwidth and outdated devices. And if we take a look at the global platform, it usually count on the customer preference for digital mediated interaction. For example, the online shopping is something that the customer think is more convenient than going to the physical store. But in Africa, it's something different that the African platform is engaged in an offline interaction with the end user. So that is the reason why we call this strategy as the last mile platform. So basically that the second strategy. So the last strategy is called the using exclusive global asset to derive value for client in developed country. So this common strategy is to exploit the distant reaching potential of the digital technology to reach the customer in the developed country, while turning a physical presence in Africa into an asset. So these may involve a new adoption of the software development outsourcing, as in outsourcing. And in each of these 3-year strategy, the digital enterprise blend the digital technology with analog asset with a view to turning a formerly locational deficit into a competitive advantage, a valuable asset, or a source of innovation. So capable, however, each strategy requires further local modification and adaptation to become viable. Capable entrepreneurs creatively adjust to market signal by iteratively improve their products. These signals can inform African digital entrepreneurs to localize their activity one way to another. Let's say, for example, the customer relationship scale conduct, demand-driven localization for business consumer. And while the last mile platform conduct demand-driven localization for consumer or large group of small business user. So this also the low-cost asset strategy cater to commoditize international demand while deriving value from a localized process of code and conduct or content creation. Such a localization may set Africa digital enterprise onto slower growth path than a global platform. But given their geographical starting point, we can see that such a strategy may be the best way to create and capture value through digital technology within Africa itself. Moving on to the next point, we talk about the digitalization of enterprise in developing country. So in most of the developing country, whereas the digital entrepreneurship focus especially on the opportunity in the digital sector itself, but in Africa, they could consider a scope of reaping the benefit from digitalization in other part of the economy. Let's say, for example, in many country itself, the number of the ICT specialists is at least as high in industry outside the core of ICT sector. Moreover, when existing firms in traditional sector digitalize to optimize their production and management process, significant productivity gain have been observed. One of the economic aspect, let's say for example, as much as of 75% of the economic impacts of the internet in 12 large developing and developing countries originally in firm in traditional sector. Digitalization and the rise of the platform economy are greatly transforming the way that firms connect to one another. This is entirely reshaped the business ecosystem of the MSME. So the MSME in developing economy will need the affordable access to the appropriate ICT infrastructure to be able to compete effectively in the digital economy. So the nature and the extent of these platformatization will also have different impact on MSME in developing country as well. So to conclude, it is very important to strengthen the capability of MSME in developing country to engage in and take advantage of the digital economy. The scope for value creation and capture in economy is significantly enhanced if the domestic firm have the resources, skill, and awareness needed to transform digital opportunity into a greater competitiveness. So to conclude the presentation, so this chapter so basically have shown us that despite the global inequality in the digital economy, there are also opportunity for enterprise in developed country to benefit from the digitalization as well. Opportunity from the digital economy are constrained in many ways. Some of them are linked to the deficiency in the local infrastructure and entrepreneurial ecosystem, while others are due to the way in which the digital economy is unfolding. So it is very clear that the inclusive development gain from the digital economy will not be realized automatically from simply expanding access to affordable broadband connectivity. But in the current context, the government intervention in a number of policy areas relating to the digitalization will be needed to secure outcome that can support the effort of achieving the goal as well. So I think that's all for the our group presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, my group number 6. Now can I ask you to leave this Zoom link and go to your group and join another Zoom link for our guest lecture, please? Because I keep waiting again and again. So let's move to the guest lecture. And sorry, today we don't have any. Okay, please move, leave and then join another. Thank you.